Hello, my dear students. Welcome to biology class. So, we are continuing with chapter number 12, reproduction in plant. Okay. So, let's see what we are going to learn today. Today, we will be learning about the sexual reproduction in plant. Okay. So, this is a vast content. So, today we will be learning about the structure of flower. So, let's proceed. Now, the plants that have flowers are called what? Are called flowering plants. Now, most of the flowering plants reproduces by sexual reproduction method involving the fusion of sex cells called gametes. That means there are two gametes, okay, that is male gamete and female gamete are involved in reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, flowers are the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant. Now, these flowers, they are of many sizes, shapes, and colors. Some flowers have smell, whereas some flowers they don't have smell. Okay, so flowers are the reproductive part of a plant. That means it is that part of a plant which contains the reproductive organ. Okay, so in other word, we can say flower contain the sexual reproductive organ of a plant. Okay. Now in most of the plant, the same flower contains a male organ as well as a female organ. That I will discuss later about the organs. Okay. Now, what is the function of flower? The function of flower is to make the male and female gametes and to ensure that fertilization will take place to make seeds for growing new plants. And where these seeds will be found? These seeds will be found inside the fruit, as you have already read in class 6. Okay, so you have got a little concept on flower and its structure. Okay. So, in other words, we can say flowers perform the function of reproduction in plants by producing seeds of a plant. Okay, so thus flowers are for sexual reproduction in plants. Some of the common flowers are what? Rose, bougainvillea, jasmine, lily, sunflower, marigold. Okay, watermelon flower. Okay, now the sexual reproduction in plant, it involves the fusion of male and female gametes of the plant, which leads to the formation of seed of a plant. Then these seeds can be used to grow new plant. Okay, in case of asexual reproduction, as you have studied, there were no formation or no process of fertilization, as because there were no involvement of male and female gamete. It was the direct method of reproduction from the vegetative part of a plant. Okay, so at first we will be discussing about the various parts of a flower, okay, including the sexual reproductive part. Okay, and then we will be studying about how the flower produce seeds by sexual method, and then they can be used to grow new plant. That we will be discussing on next day. But today we will be learning only about the structure of a flower. Okay, so flower basically it contains the four part as you have already learned in class 6, that is sepal, petal, stamen and pistil. Sepal, petal, stamen and pistil. Okay, so here you can see this is a structure of a flower, diagram of a structure of a flower. This is a structure of a bisexual flower. What is bisexual flower? I'll explain later on. Okay, so this is all about the structure of a flower, and today's class we will be learning in details about each of this part. Okay, so let's proceed. Now, the first thing that comes is sepal. Now, before sepal, I'd like to tell you this part, this green part is actually the sepal. Okay, but below that, a stem-like structure is there. That is called what? That is called the receptacle. Okay, receptacle means it is a base of a flower to which all the parts of a flower, including sepal, okay, are attached. It's called receptacle. Okay. So what is sepal? The green leaf-like parts in the outermost circle of a flower are called what? Are called sepals. Okay. The other name of sepal is what? It is calyx. So all the sepals taken together are called calyx. Okay. What is the function of this sepal? The function of sepals is to protect the flower in its initial stages when it is in the form of a bud. Okay. Now, sepals, they may be either separated from one another or joined together. In many flower, you will find that the sepals are separated from one another, or in many other flower, you will find that the sepals are joined together. All right. Next comes the petals. Okay. Inside the sepals, there are actually the petals of a flower. Here you can see the picture. Okay. Now, petals are the most attractive part of a flower. The colorful part of a flower, actually they are called petals. Okay. And this petal, it lie inside the sepals. What is the other name of petal? The other name of petal is corolla. Okay, all the petals taken together are called corolla. The other name of sepal was calyx, and the other name of petal is corolla. Okay, now petals, these are usually scented. Okay, and petals, they attract flower for the process of pollination. Sorry, petals attract insects for the process of pollination. Okay. Now, the ring of colorful petals in a flower, it protects the reproductive organ of a flower. Okay. Now, petals, they may either be separate from one another or joined together to form a tubular flower. Okay. Now, in many flowers, the number of petal is equal to the number of sepals in it, whereas in some flower, the number of sepals is not equal to the number of petals in it. Okay. So, in that case, the number of petals is much more than the number of sepals. All right. And what is the function of petal? The function of petal is to attract insect and to protect the reproductive organs which are at the center of the flower. Next comes the stamen. Next comes the stamen. Okay. Now, stamen is actually what? It is the male part of a flower. Male gender. Male part of a flower. Okay. The little stalks. Here you see the little stalks. In this picture you can see. With swollen tops just inside the ring of a petal is called stamen. These are what? These are actually the male reproductive organ or stamen. Okay. Now, stamen is a male reproductive organ of a plant, as I said you. Now, the stamen, it consists of two parts. What are the two parts? Number one is filament and number two is anther. Okay, this one is what? This part is called anther and this tube-like part is called filament. This part is called anther. This part is called what? This part is called the filament. Just follow my cursor. Okay. Now, what is the function of anther? Anther, it makes the pollen grain, okay, and it stores them. What is pollen grain? Pollen grain is the male gamete or male sex cells. Okay. Now, pollen grain are exposed when the anther ripens and splits. Pollen grain, it appears to be yellow powder-like substance to us. Okay, and this pollen grain, it contains the male gametes or the male sex cells of the plant. Right? Now, each pollen grain contains one male gamete of the plant. The male gamete of the plant, which is present inside the pollen grain, is called male nucleus of pollen grain. Okay, and the pollen grains, generally they have got a tough protective coat which prevents them from drying up. Okay, so it is clear from this discussion that the male gametes of the plant are made in the anther of a stamen. Here, over here. Okay, and it contains, here you can see the dust, yellow, its dusts are present. Those are actually the pollen grain. Okay. And a flower, it has got a number, many stamens. Okay, number of stamens, not only a single stamen, many stamens can be present in a flower. Okay. Next comes what? Next comes the pistil. Okay, so in the center of a flower, there is a flask-shaped organ called pistil. From this picture, you can find out this is what? This is a flask-shaped organ. Okay, pistil is actually what? Pistil is the female reproductive organ of a plant. Stamen was the male reproductive organ. One thing I forgot to mention, the other name of stamen is androecium and the other name of pistil is gynoecium. Okay. Now, the pistil, it is made up of three parts. What are that? Stigma, style and ovary. Stigma, style and ovary. Okay. Now, the topmost part of the pistil is called stigma. This part. Okay. This is the topmost part and this is called what? This is called stigma. What is the function of stigma? Stigma is for receiving the pollen grains from anther of a stamen during the process of pollination. What is pollination? Tomorrow I will explain. Okay, pollination means the transfer of pollen grain from the male reproductive organ to the female reproductive organ in a flower of a same plant or of different plant is called what? Is called pollination. Okay. After stigma comes the next part, that is style. The middle part of the pistil is called style. Okay, now style is a tube which connects stigma to the ovary. Okay, here is the stigma, here is the ovary, and in between style is a tube that connects. Okay. Now, the swollen part at the bottom of pistil is called what? Is called ovary. This part is called ovary. Okay. Now ovary it makes what? It makes, just a minute. Ovary it makes what? It makes ovule. Okay. And stores them. Okay. Now ovule contains what? Ovule basically contains the female gamete or female cells of a plant. Okay. Now ovary it contains one or more than one ovule. Now each ovule contains only one female gamete of a plant. Right? Now thus the female gamete of a plant which is present inside the ovule is called what? Is called egg. Inside this ovule, if you dissect this ovule, you will find eggs are there. Egg. Inside one ovule, one egg. But inside one ovary, there can be many ovules. Okay? So it is clear from this discussion that the female gametes of a plant are made in the ovary of a pistil. Okay. Here you can see this is a 3D model structure of a flower. This is what? This is the sepal. This part is the sepal. This red colored part is the petal. Okay. These all are what? 1, 2, 3 and 4. These all are what? These all are the stamen, that is a male reproductive organ. Out of this one is the anther. This tube-like structure is called what? Is called filament. Okay. And this one is what? This one is the pistil, that is the female reproductive organ. Out of this one is what? This one is the stigma, the topmost part. That means from pollen grain, from here it comes over here. Okay. The stigma, it actually receives the pollen grain. This is a style. This is a tube that connects stigma to the ovary. And this swollen structure which is situated at the base of the pistil is called what? Is called ovary. This one is the ovary. Okay. And if you dissect the ovary, you will find there are many ovules in it. Okay. And inside the ovule, there is only one egg. That is the male reproductive cell. Sorry, female reproductive cell is present. Okay. Now, we have just learned that stamen is the male reproductive organ of a plant, whereas pistil is the female reproductive organ of a plant. Okay. Now, this male and female reproductive organ of a plant may be present in the same flower or in different flower, right? Depending on this, the flower, they may be what? They may be unisexual and bisexual. Okay. Now, what is unisexual flower? What is unisexual flower? The flower which contain only one reproductive organ, either male or female, that is either stamen or pistil, is called unisexual flower. Okay. Now, both male and female unisexual flower may be present in a same plant or in different plant. Examples are what? Examples are, this is the cucumber. Okay, this is a cucumber flower. This is a unisexual flower. This is papaya flower, unisexual flower. Okay. This is what? This is watermelon flower, unisexual flower. Other than that, corn. Okay, that is also is an unisexual flower. Next comes the bisexual flower. What is bisexual flower? The flower which contains both the reproductive organ, that is male as well as female, are called what? Are called bisexual flower. Okay, that means it contains both stamen and pistil. Example is what? Example is rose. Okay. Example is hibiscus. This one is the hibiscus. Okay. Petunia. These are bisexual flower. Here you can see this is the male gamete. This is a female gamete. Both are present in a same flower. So this kind of flower is known as what? Is known as bisexual flower. Okay. So this is all about your structure of a flower. Okay. Now, how a new seed of a plant is formed? A new seed of a plant is formed when the male gamete present in the pollen grain unites with the female gamete present in ovule. And this takes place in two steps, that is pollination and fertilization. So we will be learning about pollination and fertilization in our next class. Okay. So till then, thank you everyone.